In this video, I'm going to discuss an issue that falls upon a lot of technicians, and some of the younger technicians might miss some of these, so stay tuned.
If your business sells IAQ products, you need to find out more about this great program from Jackson Systems and Supply. Modern HVAC and IAQ companies offer a lot of IAQ products, including UV lights, media filters, and much more. With the new AirLink program, Jackson Systems gives the contractors a chance to make money while taking the strain off of the contractor. With so many different types of air cleaners, filtration, and UV lights out there, it's hard for a contractor to remember which one goes where and when it's time to change it. First things first, you have to sign up with Jackson Systems to be an AirLink partner. Use the link on the screen or the one you see in the description. Next, you're going to work with the Jackson Systems guys to figure out what you want to sell, how you want to sell it, figure out what you need to sell it for. They're there to help you make sure you're making money, even though they're putting in the legwork. Next, you're going to do your installations like you always have done, and then show your customers how to scan the QR code and reorder their products. And then find yourself a nice beach or a yacht to sit on, because you can sit back and relax, and Jackson Systems will do the rest.
Summertime is upon us. It's getting hotter outside this weekend here in North Carolina. The highs are up near 90, if not 90. We'll probably break 90, be sweating our you-know-what's off, and it's going to be just a fun Memorial Day weekend, but the heat is going to be here, and it's going to be air conditioning repair season. That first hot day that presents about a zillion calls, and everybody realizes their AC hasn't worked all winter long. And the heat pump people realized that it was their heat strips heating the house and not the actual heat pump. It's pretty common. So I want to talk about an issue that befalls many guys out there. A low refrigerant charge diagnosis, where you go out there, you see the pressure on the gauges, and you say, well, low refrigerant charge, we had to add some refrigerant to this machine. I saw over my career a lot of times where technicians would add refrigerant when they shouldn't have. Now, they should have as part of the process, but not initially. The first one I'm going to talk about is a unit, the split system at a commercial building. It was a residential style system, so it wasn't anything commercial like a 460 volt rooftop unit. It was just a split system, I think 2.5 or 3 tons, train, inside and out. It was in a crawl space, and it showed as a low refrigerant charge. So when you have a low refrigerant charge, you have to also measure temperature on the lines. A lot of guys know this, but some of the new guys go in there and say, hey, we have a returning charge pressure of, let's say, 46 psi or 50 psi, and this is going to be an R22 system. The line is frozen up, or the line's freezing up. You can see it freezing up. So it's low in charge. So the thing is, whenever a unit actually gets low in charge, it can freeze up. And it can run for a while with it frozen up if none of the safeties have shut it down. The thing is, with older systems, they have less safeties on them. There's not as many sensors measuring temperature, there's not as many pressure switches, and they're just more apt to run in a defunct status than a newer unit. Newer unit has a bunch of fail-safes on it, especially communicating systems. Older systems, they would just keep on running, sometimes for a long period of time with a lot of issues. So a unit can actually freeze up and still run. And if you don't measure temperature on the line, or you're not really paying attention, or maybe you just don't know the fact that if you see a little ice on the line, if you go back to the evaporator, it may be covered in ice. If you try to charge a system like that, you really can't, because no heat transfer is taking place on that evaporator any longer. So you're not getting a true measurement of the charge. And here's what I mean. When you have an evaporator coil, you're taking heat out of the air as it passes across it. The refrigerant is absorbing it, it's expanding and evaporating. That's why they call it evaporator coil. It's heading back to the condenser. Now when it does this, typically it is above freezing, so you don't have a frozen coil. So sometimes guys say, well, the coil's frozen, it's low charge, I'm going to add some charge. But if you don't first melt the coil, you can't get a proper charge, because there has to be that heat transfer taking place. So if you decided to charge a unit that was frozen up, and I've seen a lot of people do this, and it kind of surprises a lot of us out there, but it happens quite a bit because they don't have part of the knowledge of what they're supposed to do. So you measure superheat to calculate charge. You have a low pressure and a low line temperature. Well, then you should question whether or not that coil is in good condition. Not only could it be frozen up, You could have low airflow across the coil. You could have a degraded coil, which is something that we don't think about as much. If you have a degraded evaporator coil where the fins are damaged or maybe they're smushed to the side just like condenser coils are, that'll prevent that heat exchange because air can't pass through there freely. Just same as a filter. Filter's clogged up, you have lower airflow, you're less heat exchange happening on the evaporator coil. It'll present a low pressure but a low line temperature. When you have a true low charge, you should have a low pressure but a higher line temperature, which means a higher superheat. So if you're getting low pressure, let's say you have an R22 unit coming back at 50 psi, but it's also freezing cold on the line, then go check the condition of the evaporator. Make sure it's not frozen up. Make sure you have the proper airflow, then you can properly charge the unit. If we're dealing with a newer refrigerant that's a higher pressure, just do the same calculations. You have a pressure temperature chart, or I suggest that everybody have digital gauges at this point, who will do the calculations for you, so you can see if you have a superheat of 0, or a very low superheat, although the pressure is low on the line, look and see if you have the proper airflow, see if you have a messed up coil, or you have a coil that's frozen up. And I think a lot of times you'll find that you have to solve some other issues before you can properly charge a unit. In the summertime, we're often pushed to the max as far as hurrying through calls, but make sure you do the call properly. That way you won't get that call back. You'll be able to go on to the next call, feel good about it, and have a more satisfied customer. So that's my word of advice here at the beginning of the summer. My name is Zack. This is HVAC Shop Talk. I'll see you guys on the next one, and God bless each and every one of you.
TrueTech Tools has a wide variety of great test equipment. TrueTechTools.com. Use the Shop Talk discount code to support this show and save 8% off at TrueTech Tools.